I'm Maria Papidis, and I'm with the University of Delaware Cooperative Extension. And welcome to this multi-sponsored event through the University of Delaware Cooperative Extension, the Delaware Money School, the Delaware Division of Libraries, and today we have John Bell from the Better Business Bureau. And John is the Director of Business Relations at the Better Business Bureau, and he's been with them for about 9 years. And he's responsible for communications and education and outreach for that organization. And you may not know, but the Better Business Bureau's frontline role is really identifying and preventing frauds and scams, or it's one of the roles. And John works with both law enforcement and consumers and can frequently be found out doing fraud prevention workshops, cybersecurity education, and public outreach throughout the state of Delaware. And John is a graduate of the University of Delaware, yay, and lives in Wilmington with his wife and his 5-year-old daughter. And today he's going to be addressing and talking about top scams that target Delawareans during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, thank you so much, Maria. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I guess I should change my bio to say he can frequently be found virtually out doing these presentations these days. Yeah, the Better Business Bureau does an awful lot with fraud and scam prevention because we get the reports. We're a resource for the public, and I'm always grateful for an opportunity to talk with anybody that's keen to listen and learn about it, because it is an evolving topic that is certainly something that affects everyone. But I kind of want to start with the scope of the problem, because this is not a small issue. This is a growing scourge on North America specifically, but in the US, I mean, it's untold billions of dollars. I mean, we've got 50 plus billion reported, but that's just reported. And fraud and scam goes so often unreported that there's really no way to get a gauge on it. But Delaware is at the very top of a list we do not want to be at the top of. We are third worst in the nation for fraud reports, and number 7 in the nation for identity theft reports. That's awful when you consider that about 1 in 4 of those reports leads to lost money. So this is an important topic, and I'm glad everyone is able to participate, and hopefully we'll get some questions answered and provide some information that will be of help to you. A little bit about BBB. We are a nonprofit. People tend to think otherwise. I guess the Bureau part throws people off, but no, we're a nonprofit. We were created about 100 years ago by businesses that wanted there to be a group that honestly, it started with snake oil salesmen. You know, people would blow into town. They'd sell you a magic tonic or an elixir that would do everything from regrow your hair to you know, help you get your acne cleared up or cure their aches and pains. And then they would take your money. They would sell you creek water, and you'd be left with nothing. And the local businesses said, "Hey, why didn't you spend that money here? Why would you give your money to that guy that you know, who knew where he's from? He came into town yesterday, and now he's gone, and that money is gone from the community as well." So BBB was started because of stuff like this. You know, advertisements that claim, you know, I mean, Dr. Batty's asthma cigarettes, they're for the temporary relief of asthma. That's what I want when I'm an asthmatic, is a nice asthma cigarette. That sounds wonderful. Blatz beer, perfect for nursing mothers. Yes, that is a 100% verified claim, I'm sure. So there was this issue with people not knowing what they could believe, who to trust, and that led to the creation of Better Business Bureau. And that puts us on the front line because we get inquiries and reports all the time on businesses. You know, to boil it down, our mission is to make sure people don't get ripped off. And the easiest way to make sure you don't get ripped off is to make sure you know who you're working with. To make sure whether you're going to hire somebody from a business standpoint, as a vendor and a subcontractor, or from a consumer standpoint, to make sure you know who you're dealing with. And that the overflow into today's world is, honestly, it's the exact same issue. People get a call from somebody that says that they're the IRS and the Social Security Administration. They don't know if they should believe that or not. They get, you know, an opportunity to buy something online and the price looks great, but they don't know if they can believe it or not. And BBB is an independent, unbiased resource. here to provide people with information. But part and parcel to that is that we get reports on scams. We get reports on businesses that are not real, products that are too good to be true, people that are taking money and deliberately deceiving people. And so we built a database, and we work with law enforcement, we work with government agencies. We do our best to get a handle on the situation because we are boots on the ground. BBB exists throughout the US and Canada. We've got an office in Mexico now. Just one, but we're growing. But the idea is anywhere that we can educate people, anywhere we can share this information, that's going to help people not lose money. Fast forward 100 years to now, there is a pandemic, a global pandemic that is putting people really behind the 8 ball because everything is unknown. My God, if I hear the word unprecedented one more time, I think I'm going to throw up. But it is, right? Everything that's going on now is new. People are not familiar with the payroll protection program. They are not familiar with stimulus checks and what the process for that is. People do not understand what is medical advice they're hearing versus what is opinion versus what is news versus what is real. And that environment is a fertile breeding ground for scammers because they love to target people when they are uncertain, when people are just a little bit hesitant to say, well, maybe this is real, or when they're trying to do the right thing in an environment where they are out of their element. And the social distancing element to this pandemic has really exacerbated the situation because when you are isolated, physically certainly, but emotionally as well, when you are isolated, studies have shown you are more susceptible to scams. And so coronavirus and the pandemic that surrounds it is a wonderful confluence of events for a scammer because they can target people who are alone and isolated, who are uncertain, and who aren't experiencing normal life. And they do that to try to rip people off. But who gets targeted? Who loses money? Not who you think. We used to do these surveys and we would ask people, okay, if in your mind, draw up a picture, who loses money to scams? And invariably, it was an old, poor, uneducated woman. And it was wrong on all counts. But people have this imaginary person in their mind of this doddering grandmother who is the ultimate victim of every scam out there, when the reality is everybody loses. Everybody loses. Doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter, your anything you want to pick as far as demographic, as far as sort of a way to parse things. The only thing that changes is some people are more susceptible to some scams, some are more susceptible to others. But the data on this chart shows that people that are younger lose money 3 times as often as people that are 65 and up. Older Americans still lose more money, undoubtedly lose more money. They have more money to lose. But millennials, younger people, they lose money 3 times as often. And a lot of that is because education. These are the FTC statistics. It's always important to make sure you do your research. It's not just BBB's data. This is accepted data, or it's becoming more accepted data. Younger people are losing money way more often. It's because they are not educated. Think about your typical older American, right? Your senior, if you say. Although nobody self-identifies with that term, so not really worthwhile to use it. But think about your older consumers. If you're someone who's 80 years old today, well, guess what? People have been beating the drum about fraud and scam prevention for 25 years. So you've been hearing it since you were what, 55? Well, so if you're 25 today, you haven't even been an adult for 25 years, and no one is talking to you. Look, I could talk in the senior center. I could talk in assisted living. I could talk in support groups for health issues for older Americans every day of the week. But they've heard it, and that's good. They can hear it again. But who's talking to the kids? And I shouldn't use the word kids either because nobody self-identifies with that either. But it's important that this information is shared, and that's one of the reasons BBB does this. Let's look at some of the areas where we're seeing COVID-19 specific scams target people. But what you're going to see is that while the script for the scammers has changed, actual scams have not. Online purchase, right? We're talking about get your masks, get your personal protection, personal protective equipment, your PPE, get your hand sanitizer, get your Clorox bleach and your wipes, all the things that people were scrambling to buy online is leading people into the arms of scammers, because a website can be made to look very, very real. It can be made to appear very high in search results, and it can be completely phony. And so how do people tell what's real versus what's not? We got this report. This probably looks reasonably common. It's about masks. It is a discounted mask because the scammers will always sell it to you at a bargain price. And it's got a scarcity element. Look at that countdown. 5 hours remaining, only 24 left in stock. Buy now. They don't want to take any time to think about it. They want you to buy it at this price because you know you need a mask. Do it now. That's a red flag, right? Any website that's having a one-day sale and you've never shopped on that website before, red flag. These are things that you need to really be careful about with online shopping, because this is an area where you're never going to meet the person face to face. You know, you're never going to walk into a brick and mortar store. You're never going to be able to guarantee you're walking out of the store with something. Number one complaint we get with online shopping is you put your purchase in, you say, I'm going to buy that mask, and then you wait. What's it take to ship something? A couple of days if it's Amazon, but if it's not, what, 2 weeks, 10 days, even 1 week? That means that you're waiting for 7 days and the scammers are just laughing themselves to tears because they got what? Your credit card. And you're not even you're not going to challenge the dispute the process for at least 7 days because you're still waiting for it. And when you do dispute it, what are they going to say? They're going to say, oh, it's on its way. I promise it's on its way. Just give me 1 more week. So many problems with shipping because of the supply chain globally. They're going to empathize. They're going to say something reasonable and they're going to stall. Because the longer they have your credit card number, the longer they have that information, the better the chance that they keep it and that they can use their credit card for other surreptitious and illegal purchases. I mentioned earlier, this is COVID-19 bent to it, but this is not a scam that originated COVID-19. There we go.
So John, I have a question.
Ooh,
So what
please.
about using something like PayPal? Like if they offering some.
Yeah, right on. So types of payment is something that is an important part of the presentation, and it really boils down to this. If you read the terms and conditions on PayPal, you will see that you are not as well protected as you think. The process to dispute a charge through PayPal can take weeks, if not months, and they do not have the ironclad protections in place that a credit card does. People ask us about, what about Venmo, Zelle? What about, any of the direct payments? Read the terms and conditions. We get complaints. I got one just this week, and it was a woman that thought she was buying a dog online, and she paid with Venmo. And when she realized that no dog was coming, she tried to dispute it. And even though Venmo she had, through her bank, through PNC, they were like, womp womp. These are designed to be irreversible transactions. So when you buy something online, yes, PayPal, there are some protections in place there, but nothing meets the gold standard that is credit card fraud prevention. Not yet anyway. And maybe one day they will, but for the time being, my advice personally and professionally is, if you're shopping online, you should really consider using a credit card for those purchases, because at least there is a dispute process in place. But that doesn't prevent you from aiding the scammers by giving them your credit card. It just means that you are not the one that personally loses money. So to the fake websites, this is a website that came across our desk for Uggs. Looks like Uggs' actual website, not quite, but it masquerades, does a reasonable job if you're not paying that much attention. This was a website we had taken down. I like to point this one out because if you look at the very top corner, and I don't think I have a way to point it out, but this is a secure site. It's a secure site. It's got the little lock in the corner. Everybody sees that lock and they think, oh, okay, good. No, it just means encrypted. It means that whatever you put into that site is private between you and the people that run the site. And scammers love to encrypt. They don't want anybody in law enforcement looking at what's going back and forth to their site. That lock does not mean what most people think it means. This is a fraud site. We had it taken down. It was secure. Woman lost a lot of money too, thinking she was buying a dog. But these sites exist. Online shopping is a thing, but with the COVID-19 pandemic, people are looking to shop online more because they're not going out, right? People are living in their houses and they're shopping online, and they're seeing advertisements that pop up on Facebook. They're seeing advertisements come to their email. You've got to be careful when you follow those links or when you go to those sites, because you don't know just by looking at a site that it's real. I'll get into some of the tools you can use later on about ways you can be more careful about it, but it is happening. And when you shop online, you should really try to make sure you're shopping from places that you've either shopped from before, or make sure that you know who you're doing business with. Next giant category that we see for scams during COVID-19 is, again, it's the same scam we've been seeing forever, but with a COVID bent: impersonation scams. So the way it works is this. Used to be, you would get a scam call from the Social Security Administration, and they would say, we're the Social Security Administration, and you're going to go to jail if you don't provide us with your Social Security number and information, because somebody's been caught hacking your information, and we think that you're a crook. And you say, no, I'm not a crook, I promise. And they say, well, we're cutting off your Social Security benefits because we think that there's been fraud on your account. You better verify that information. What's your social again? And you say, oh, here's my social, it's 1112. They trick you. Now they say, hey, we've detected fraud on your account. Because our offices are closed because of the COVID pandemic, you have to verify over the phone. You can't come in person. Same exact scam, same exact scam. They trick you into thinking they're somebody you should trust, but they say something kind of reasonable, like, hey, our offices are closed because of the pandemic. And then they say, ooh, there's been, issues with your Social Security. And then they threaten you. We are going to cut off your benefits. Gone because of the scam that we're seeing on this account. They scare you. It's sort of the other side of that countdown on the web, the website for the masks. Scarcity, right? They're trying to trick you into doing something quickly. In the one case, it was because you didn't want to miss out. But in this case, it's because you don't want to go to jail, right? You don't want your benefits cut off. But have a look at that chart that I'm showing you on the screen. Anybody that is a well-known brand is rife to be impersonated by the scammers. BBB is on there for sure. Major banks are on there. Any major brand technology. Scammers love to impersonate real businesses because they can trade on the credibility. And during the pandemic, if you get, a call or a tracking number from Walmart that says, hey, there's an awful lot of online shipping going on. We've got a delay on the package that you ordered, and you say, wait a minute, I didn't order anything. And they say, well, here's the tracking number to click to double check it. Maybe you click on the tracking number to see what it is. Whoops. Now you've downloaded a virus for your computer. But they understand the amount of online shipping that's going on. Scammers understand the amount of fear people have to have their Social Security cut off. And they know that people are hard up for money. So when they call and they say, guess what? Publishers here in Clearinghouse has an award for you. You have won. You've won the contest. Congratulations. Yay, you're going to get so much money. People are desperate for money, right? So they fall for it more. Again, isolation. Maybe it's the financial strain they're under for the pandemic. But the landscape that scammers are working with during this pandemic is making them way more successful. Way more successful. And listen, they don't need to be any more successful. But impersonation, right? You've got to be very careful. And that includes on the phone. You cannot trust your caller ID. You can't. I have seen how easy it is for scammers to spoof those things. And at the end of the day, just because your number shows up on your phone and it's got a name attached to it, doesn't mean that's the number that's calling. I got a call on my own cell phone from myself. Number was my phone number. Said John Bell was calling. Wondered what I wanted. But you've got to be careful because the scammers can use technology to impersonate any number they want. They can. The technology is there, and until there's action at the telecoms or the government level to stop it, just because your caller ID says that it's, your utility company calling, it's not. It doesn't have to be. And the scammers are calling people and they're saying, hey, you're behind on your bill. We're going to cut off your electric. Oh, I'm sorry, you're in home quarantine, you're self-isolating, and you've got no way to get any help because if we turn off your power, then you can't charge your phone. I guess you better pay us. I guess you better pay us. I mean, these are rotten human beings. Let's be honest, they're common dogs, but they're successful and they know what they're doing. This is almost a year ago today. Unemployment at the lowest level in Delaware in a generation. This is a year later. That's quite a change. Quite a change from where we were a year ago. So this leads into one of the more common scams that we are seeing everyone be victimized by, but especially in the pandemic, and it is employment scams. Number one biggest scam, because more people are losing money, more people are being affected by it, and more people are being targeted for it. Now, let's be clear, employment scam is not new, right? This is not new, but they're out of work. They're looking to work remotely. They're unable to do their job. If it was in a restaurant or hospitality and they had their hours cut and they're looking to make ends meet, They're online looking for work they can do from home, and scammers are there saying, I got a job for you. They've got great websites. They're on all the major websites that are job searching websites. They will do interviews with you. I talked to a woman, she did a Google Hangouts interview with these scammers. They asked her questions. Well, why do you think you deserve this job? What are your greatest strengths? What was your last employment and situation look like? Look, I could Google employer questions to ask on an interview today, and I could have a great list. Scammers are not dumb. They make it look real. They make it look real. They make you earn that job. Because what do you do when you apply for a job? You send them your social, your date of birth, your name, your address, maybe your bank account for direct deposit. Yeah, you send them all that stuff. So in the first case, if they can trick you into thinking they're real, you're going to send them all that personal information. This is what it looks like. One of the examples that we've seen, and it says, hey, let's talk. We like the cut of your jib. We're thrilled that you've moved on to the next round of this process. We'd like to talk with you. Let's figure out when we can do this thing. Let's have an interview. There's no broken grammar in here. There's no giant red flags, except maybe their availability. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 9 to 5. And again, during the pandemic, I'm pretty available those days too. The idea though is this is not something that's got a gigantic red flag on it. This is something that if people get it, they might say, ooh, that looks good. This is the other example. What I told you about what they ask for when you do these. This is a real scam application. They want you to photocopy your driver's license and send it to them. And they want you to put on your bank name with your ABA number, direct deposit. But you don't have to, because that'd be a giant red flag. You could just give them your street address to mail a check to you, or your PayPal account. Yeah, you give me your PayPal account, no problem. We'll pay you that way. The scammers are not dumb. And they know that the longer they can keep you on the hook, the more they are going to get out of you. Because here's the thing. A lot of these guys, once they get you on the hook, they actually have you do a job for them. Secret shoppers are popular right now. Well, I beg your pardon. We haven't gotten the reports, but the sort of work that we have seen leading up to the pandemic, secret shoppers were quite popular. As things open up again, we're going to see more of that. The secret shopper idea, though, is this. Hey, we're going to send you a check. You're going to take it to a store. Or I'm sorry, you're going to cash it, take a picture of it, cash it that way. And you're going to buy stuff from a website we give you the address for. Or when you can go into a store, you're going to go into a store, but you're going to pay attention to how you're treated. And you're going to tell us all the things about secret shopping that make you feel like, hey, this is a good place to shop. This is a good website. This is whatever. And the scammers are going to make you think that that's a job that they're going to pay you for. But really, the way that the laws work with checks is once you deposit it, and again, most people are taking pictures of check to deposit it. Once you deposit it, the bank must make that money available to you. Usually 48 hours, sometimes 24. But when you spend that money and you buy the gift cards and you send those gift cards to the scammers, when the check bounces, the bank takes the money out of your account. So let's say you've got $1,000 in your account, you get a check for $1,000. Okay, you now have $2,000. Your phone says the money's there. You look at it, it says it's there. So you go online shopping, you go to a website you're directed to go to, you spend $1,000, their $1,000, mind you. A week later, your bank says your balance is zero. And you say, wait a minute, I have $1,000 in my account. They say, well, no, you passed a bad check and it looks like you spent $1,000 on illegalscamwebsite.org. So we're taking the $1,000 that you spent because you did spend it. You lose it, you lose the money. Reshipping scams, this is something that we have seen during the pandemic, because the way this works is they say, hey, we'd like to hire you to be a package inspector. You know, a lot of online shipping right now happening and a lot of quality issues with some of it. So what we're gonna do is we're a fulfillment service for Amazon. When somebody orders something, we're gonna send it to you. You open a package, you look at the technology, because it's always technology. You make sure it didn't break, you make sure it didn't shift during transit. You take a picture of it, you reseal it, you upload the picture into a website like you're looking at, where it says packages plus 13, that's how many packages are coming to you. We're gonna pay you $20 to $25 a package. Look, there's your balance at the top of the screen. You're making $720. You can go ahead and you can download a shipping label for it. You upload your scanned documents, pictures, download a new label, send it out the door to Ukraine or somewhere in Cameroon, Africa, or elsewhere in Eastern Europe or Moscow, or take your pick. When a scammer steals somebody's credit card, they can't use it, right? They can't ship it to themselves. If I'm a scammer and I'm John Bell and I live at 123 Main Street and I have stolen goods sent to my own home address, I am dumb and I'm going to get caught. So who do I ship it to? What can I do with this stolen credit card? I'll ship it to you. You'll ship it to a third party so that when people come trying to track you, they got to go through all the hoops of where it was sent. 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 different places before it finally ends up at like a UPS store, you know, a PO box somewhere. You think you're working a real job. You think you're making money based on what you're doing. But no, you've given your information and your application to scammers. So now they have your personal information. Now you're working, you think you've got a job, but you're really just helping them ship stolen goods out of the country. And one day the police are kind of going to come knocking at your door. And they're going to say, hey, we're getting a lot of reports of stolen goods being shipped here. And you got to explain, and you better be backpedaling pretty quick at that point to explain. Are you going to go to jail for that? No, not the first time you do it. They're going to warn you. The police know about this, but you are out. You thought you had a job for what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? You were probably deficit spending money, right? Buying stuff, run up your credit card balance because you think you're going to get paid. Look, there's $720 coming in, and I got 13 more packages coming in at $20 a package. Yes, this is a great job I got. I'm so excited. I'm telling all my friends, I'm working from home. This is great. Scams worth noting, and these are happening a little bit more again because people don't know that much about cryptocurrency. And during the pandemic, cryptocurrency is something that people think they can do remotely. They can buy Bitcoin with their phones. They can manage things, cryptocurrency, right? So it's an employment scam, but it's also just a scam that they might trick you into doing. People don't know much about it. People think they can armchair quarterback their way to riches. Cryptocurrency is something people say that you can invest in. They're going to trick you into investing in it. They're going to promise you great rewards and great interest if you do that. And then there's also the issue of them thinking you're going to work. I talked to a woman who thought she got a job and she was going to be a customer service agent for a company that buys and sells cryptocurrency. Imagine as you've got a job working for a bank, but you could do it from home because you're just a customer service person. Now, she said, I appreciate the job. I went through the application process, but I don't really know that much about cryptocurrency. And the company said, don't you worry, we're going to train you. Easiest way to train you is we're going to send you some cryptocurrency. And she said, well, how do I do that? They said, easy peasy. We'll tell you what, let's start at the beginning. We'll send you some money. You gave us your bank account information, so we're going to send you $5,000. We want you to take that $5,000. It was actually $4,500, but you get the idea. We want you to take that money, withdraw it from your bank account, cash in hand, walk it down the street, take it to an ATM, a Bitcoin ATM, where you're going to put the money into the ATM and you're going to send it to a certain address, a Bitcoin wallet, and you're going to see how easy this process is. Because that way, when people call you and they say, I don't understand cryptocurrency, you'll say, no, it's easy. I've done it. It's easy. Well, so she took the money, $4,500, and this woman was uncertain about walking around with $4,500 cash in hand, but she does it because she just got a job. They offer $1,000 a week, so she was looking at a pretty good job. She goes to the sketchy area of town where there's a gas station with a Bitcoin ATM. She's like, this doesn't feel right, but I think I'm going to do it. Puts the money into the Bitcoin ATM, sends it off to her employer. What happens next? The bank flags the money and they say, hey, we saw that you received $4,500 in stolen money, so we're taking it out of your account. And she says, whoa, I'm out of work. I've got $7,000 in my account. That's all my money in the world. Like, that's my life savings. That's my nest egg. And they're like, well, your $4,500 looks like you withdrew, and so you don't get to keep the illegally deposited money that you withdrew from your account. As far as we know, you're complicit. Swear to God, they thought she was complicit. Scared the bejesus out of this poor woman because she's like, I'm not a crook. I thought I had a job. She did not have a job, and she lost that $4,500. So her life savings was $7,500. Not anymore. Now it's $2,500. Gone. Money gone because she withdrew it and deposited into a Bitcoin ATM and sent it to scammers. What was she doing? She was laundering money, but she thought she had a job and she didn't understand cryptocurrency, and the scammers were happy to explain it to her. I don't mean to make light of it. And I got to back up for a second. If I seem enthusiastic and I seem like high energy about this, it's because it's fascinating to me and because the stories will blow your mind. But that's a real woman, and she lost an awful lot of money, and she didn't do anything wrong. She didn't do anything wrong. She thought she had a job. She went through an online interview process, right? They deposited money in her account. everything they said they were going to do, they were doing. They had a great looking website. You know, like it was a little weird that she had to deposit it into an ATM, but you could forgive her for making that leap of faith because she thought it was real. So this goes into some of the question we had earlier about those red flags for payments. Listen, I can't really stress this enough. If somebody asks you to pay for something with a gift card, that's a scam. There are exactly 0 places in the world where the only way you can play, or that you can pay, is with a gift card. That's a red flag for a scam, 100%. Likewise, wire transfer. Wire transfer should be a red flag because yes, while it is real, you should not regularly be required to do it. Should not be. And so you can afford to be cautious when somebody says, oh, you just wire transfer that money to me. You can afford to say, well, you know what? I'm looking at this a little bit more. Let me call up that guy at the BBB and be like, hey, remember that time you told me to like be careful about wire transfer money? Well, here's what's going on. And I'll say, oh yeah, well, that's a scam. Or it's not. Because that's what BBB does, right? That's what we're here to do. We're here to help you not get ripped off. And if we can do that by being a resource when you've got something that looks fishy, yes, call us. Absolutely. But red flags should also put you a little bit on guard. Certainly anybody that wants a payment immediately. If they've got you on the phone and they say pay right away, that's a red flag. If they're going to overpay, anybody ever sell anything on eBay? Anybody ever sell anything online? This happens to businesses a lot. Somebody says, hey, I'd like to hire you to paint my house. I'm in the hospital right now, but I want you to paint my house. The thing is, I'm in the hospital. I only have 1 check left. So I'm going to mail you that check. But instead of paying you $4,000 to paint the house, I'm going to send you a check for $7,500. And what I want you to do is, could you send $2,000 by wire transfer to this other vendor that I'm hiring to fix the back porch? You keep the extra $500. I don't even care. Like, you're doing me a big solid favor, so I'm going to pay you more because you're helping me out. But could you cash a check and then wire transfer that money? It's just like the employment scam. By the time that check bounces and the bank pulls the money out, you've already sent it away. But overpayment, that's a big red flag. Again, the gift cards. I'm not trying to victim blame, okay? I'm not trying to say that people are dumb. Scammers are very convincing. But seriously, talk to your friends, talk to your family. If anybody ever says that the only way you can pay the IRS is with Apple iTunes gift cards, no, that's just a scam. That's a scam. Scamming is big business, and I want to make sure that you understand the scope of this because scammers are not going away. This picture was taken about a year and a half ago at this point, and it's a picture of a call center. Look at the rows of cubicles. Look at the stacks of computers and keyboards. The people, not so much. Look at the Christmas decorations on the wall. That's their full-time job. That's where they show up to work every day. Hey, John G, how's your weekend? It was good. How about yours, Nilesh? Oh, it's fantastic. You see the cricket? Sure did. It was fantastic. Hey, good luck today. You too. Sit down. This is the IRS. Pay us your money now. 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 to 7 days a week. They make money doing it. But look at that picture. Somebody's paid for that equipment. Somebody's leasing that office space. It's big business. They would not do this if they did not make money. Accent classes, like to point that out too. They teach you to be better as a scammer because they want you to succeed. In every ways, it's a business enterprise, except it's an illegal one. So let's get into some of the good stuff about how to not get ripped off, right? Some of the things you can do, some of the things that you need to be careful of, and some of the ways that you really need to make sure you're on your guard. Our data and research shows that a significant number of scams during COVID-19 are originating on social media websites. These are the ads that pop up. These are fake invitations from somebody that wants to connect with you. These are unsolicited, friend requests from people. Be wary about social media. Anything you're going to be asked for your personal information, anything where you're going to be asked about paying money, credit card information, etc., and it originated online, be careful. Independently verify somebody before doing business with them. Do research, right? Don't take their word for it. I hate to sound like such a cynic, like you can't trust people. And admittedly, what I do for a living makes me maybe a little bit jaded, but zero trust. You have got to be careful. And what does that mean? That means that when you're going to look at an employer and you're going to consider going to work for them, ask for a copy of their business license. Don't just look at their website. My wife does website design for a living. They're easy to build. They look real. They're fantastic. You can't believe them. The company will tell you whatever they need to tell you. Oh, we're totally real. They'll get pictures on their site of real buildings. They'll use real addresses. Business license can still be faked, but in my experience, 80% of the scammers will be like, what do you mean business license? You don't need to see our business license. Yeah. These are reasonable steps you can ask. You can also check online. Look, Google the name of the company plus scam. Google, while not 100% full of accuracy, you could do worse than checking Google. Call Better Business Bureau, check bbb.org. We have a resource called Scam Tracker. You can look and you can root around and see what scams are happening near you. Talk to people, friends, family. It's surprising how much word of mouth helps these things travel, but talk about the scams and you will know about them when you're targeted by them. So red flags, if somebody wants something immediately, we talked about that a little bit earlier, that's a big red flag. Hey, listen, if it seems too good to be true, right? I hate to be the guy that reads his PowerPoint, but there it is. It seems too good to be true, probably is. Any sense of urgency should be a red flag. Anytime you're never going to be able to meet them should be a red flag. Do your research. These are other things that you should consider. I don't know how well you are looking into password security at your organizations personally, but make sure you're considering two-factor authentication. Make sure you're considering, password protecting your phone, right? These are things that are easy to do. They're easy to do. They're easy to tell others to do, and yet people don't do them. They don't do them. Another thing that's not on this list, I'm not reading my PowerPoint now. How many of us, when you use your personal computer, use it as an administrator? And yet, if you're using your home computer as an administrator and you are hacked, that means your administrator credentials were just hacked. That's a lot harder to fix. Whereas if you get a computer and you set up a account that is privileged enough to do whatever you need it to do, use the internet, install a program, remove a program, whatever, or maybe just basic stuff, and you don't give it permissions to install anything, use that account. Save your administrator credentials for, when you need them. Don't trust links. Let's see, I'm running into the home stretch here. We're starting to wrap up and I want to leave time for questions, but I mentioned word of mouth. This graph shows the way people think they learn about scams versus the actual ways they learn about them. Number one, the news. But the news, they're going to focus on the sexy scams. They're going to focus on somebody who lost $30,000 and oh my God, look at this crazy scenario. The rank and file scams are not that exciting. There are people that get ripped off for 70 bucks, 100 bucks, 200 bucks. Look, that's meaningful money. I don't want to lose 70 bucks, but it's meaningful money happening in an incredibly large number of times. So the number two reason people learn about scams, word of mouth. They don't think they learn from word of mouth, but they do. And then they think they learn about everything. They think they learn on social media. They think they learn on websites. But when we say, well, when you avoided a scam, was it what you read on a website? Oh, no, there's something I heard talking about it. Oh, well, the stuff you heard on a PSA, that helped you? Well, no, I mean, it was the news. They think they learn about it in ways that they don't. Our research, again, but I think that's worth paying attention to. And it means share what you've learned. Pass on the things that are wowing you about my fantastic presentation today, all right? That's a little bit of humility right there for you, yeah. Pass it on, share it with people. You can also report scams. That is a big help. You can go to Scam Tracker and you can just Google Scam Tracker, or you can just go to scamtracker.org. It's pretty easy to remember. Certainly report it to law enforcement if you lose money. Certainly report it to the FTC if you lose money, but it helps us aggregate the data so that we can do presentations like this and be more relevant. Helps us to know what's actually going on. Scam Tracker, quick plug for it. It's free, it's easy, but you can read what's happening to other people too. In addition to reporting, you can also see what's happening locally. But a lot of people are saying it's helping them not lose money. This is what it looks like. It's like a heat map, so you can bore in. So look, maybe you're here in Delaware, but maybe you're not. Maybe you're viewing this recording and you're from California. Scam Tracker works in Canada too. Not quite there in Mexico yet, but we're working on it. I think you can search Mexico, there just won't be much data yet. I'm going to make this available, I hope, to Maria to share, so you guys have this list of information. These are just websites that you can go to help learn more. You know, places you can report, places you can figure out how to turn on two-factor authentication. You can all read the PowerPoint, but I'm going to make it available so you can see what's what. Hopefully there are things that will help you. Hopefully there are things that you can share with others. But hopefully this was helpful for you today.